The Kite Runner tells the story of one Afghan's quest for redemption. While reading the story of Amir, one navigates through the rich history of Afghanistan's complicated past over the span of 30 years. Within Afghanistan's complicated past, you learn about the ethnic tensions and impacts Russia's 1979 invasion left on the people. In addition, one learns the importance of standing up for what you believe is right before it is too late, the significance of maintaining friendships, letting go of the past, and the nature of forgiveness. The story of Amir is one filled with painful regrets and what seemed to be a long-lost potential for redemption. Baba and Amir lived in one of the most glamorous houses in all of Kabul. Baba is a highly respected man, and Amir aims to live up to his honorable name and expectations. Accompanied with them in Kabul is Ali and Hassan, their Hazara servants. Early on, you begin to differentiate the social customs within Afghanistan's racial divide as Ali and Hassan live in a mud hut on Baba's property, are illiterate, and have been persecuted by the ruling Pashtuns just like all the other thousands of Hazaras in Afghanistan. Despite their racial divide, Amir and Hassan grow up as best friends and are almost inseparable. They spend their summer days reading books under a pomegranate tree, which begins to symbolize their friendship, and their time in the winter is spent flying kites. Each winter in the city of Kabul, there is a kite fighting tournament, and in the winter of 1975, Amir and Hassan are determined to win it. However, it is also the winter of 75 that changes their life forever. Amir believes if he can accomplish this feat, he will win over love and affection from Baba, so it is very important to him that he wins. So Amir and Hassan team up with Amir as the fighter and Hassan the assistant, holding the spool and feeding the line. On the day of the tournament, Amir is doubtful, but it is Hassan that pushes him through and encourages him to carry on. After a long and grueling day of fighting kites, it is the duo that comes out on top ahead of thousands of others. Amir is overjoyed and hopes his efforts will be approved by Baba and respected enough to gain the affection he strives so hard for. After the last blue kite falls, Amir looks to Baba. He says, "Then I saw Baba on our roof. He was standing on the edge, pumping both fists, hollering and crapping. And right there was the single greatest moment of my 12 years of life, seeing Baba on the roof, proud of me at last." While Amir gains Baba's approval and affection, he realizes that this is short-term and instead gains a long-term regret, one that he will never be able to forgive himself for. It is tradition for the children to chase down each kite as they fall from the sky, and the last kite to fall has the highest merit. Hassan has a way with the kites and can read the skies like no other. He offers to chase down the last kite to fall as a gift for Amir, and as he chases it through the winding streets of Kabul, he runs into trouble. Asef, a boy who only sees the world in black and white, Pashtuns and Hazaras, the rich and the poor, stumbles upon Hassan. Amir is wandering the streets of Kabul in search of Hassan and the blue kites, in hope that he can present the blue kite as proof of his worth to Baba. Meanwhile, Hassan is cornered by Asef and his two tag-alongs, Wali and Kamal. Asef verbally attacks Hassan for being Hazara before eventually raping him. Amir witnesses the whole event but doesn't want to intervene in fear of two things: getting assaulted by Asef or losing the blue kite and the chance to get what he wants most, to win Baba over. In the end, he runs away, ashamed of himself and never wanting to remember the coward that he was to abandon Hassan when he needed him the most. After the kite running incident, Amir didn't want to be friends with Hassan anymore because every time he looked at Hassan, he saw the person he didn't want to see, the coward that let his best friend get raped for a little blue kite. Amir gives Ali and Hassan the cold shoulder, and his actions are so harsh that Ali decides it is time to leave Kabul after 40 years of living with Baba. This memory haunts Amir for the rest of his life, and it isn't for another 25 years that Amir is able to find redemption. Amir and Baba fled to the United States in 1981 to escape from the Russian invasion, and from there on out, Amir never looks back until he receives a phone call in 2001 from Rahim Khan, his father's best friend, telling him there is a way to be good again. Amir then leaves his wife, Soraya, and travels back to Afghanistan. He learns that Hassan was killed by the Taliban but left a son. Amir's mission for redemption ends when he fights the Taliban after a long, arduous journey to save Hassan's son, Sarab, from the terrors of Taliban-infested Afghanistan and brings him home to America. Amir was heavily impacted by his decision to abandon Hassan, and on page 1, his story begins when he says, "I became what I am today at the age of 12, on a frigid, overcast day in the winter of 1975. I remember the precise moment, crouching behind a crumbling mud wall, peeking into the alley near the frozen creek. That was a long time ago, but it's wrong what they say about the past, I've learned, about how you can bury it. because the past calls its way out. Looking back now, I realize I have been peeking into the deserted alley for the last 26 years. Under the lens of the psychoanalytical critical theory, you see Amir admitting how much does one action influence the rest of his life. On pages 22 and 23, Amir overhears Baba talking to Rahim Khan about how he's afraid that Amir will never grow up to be like him and won't follow the same respectable path that he followed. Baba is afraid that Amir will become a man that can't stand up for anything, and ever since, Amir lives to please his father. This influences his actions, and thus, he decides to abandon his son in search of this desire. Towards the end of the novel, Amir risks his life on multiple levels to save Sarab in an attempt to feel that he had fulfilled his redemption. He even willingly endures immense physical pain when fighting Isaf and the Taliban to save Sarab because he feels deserving of it. Amir says, "For the first time since the winter of 1975, I felt at peace. I laughed because I saw that, in some hidden nook in a corner of my mind, I'd been looking forward to this. My body was broken. Just how badly I wouldn't find out until later, but I felt healed. Healed at last." This shows how far Amir was willing to go in order to relieve himself from the self-inflicted regrets and how much his past had haunted him. Rahim Khan had told Amir that he had always been too hard on himself, and after saving Sarab, he is able to let go and breathe again. After reading The Kite Runner, I learned about Afghan culture. When Amir gets married to Soraya, you learn the traditional Afghan customs and the importance of a family's honor. The Afghan marriage process is a complex one, but it is filled with multiple ceremonies. I learned about the Kastagari, when the father of the man asks the woman's father for the daughter's hand in marriage. When Amir and Soraya get engaged, you witness what an Afghan Shrini Khori, or eating of the sweets ceremony is. The wedding ceremony, or arusi, is special, and at their nikah they listen to passages of the Quran under a green decorated veil. They eat traditional Afghan chapan kebab and shali gashti to celebrate. In addition to social customs, you learn about the rich history of Afghanistan. In the 1950s, it was considered one of the Middle East's most progressive and developing countries. The pro-Soviet general Mohammad Daoud Khan became the prime minister of Afghanistan in 1953. Under his reign, he brought many social reforms to the country, which included emphasis on women's rights. Under Khan, women were given a more public presence and were able to enter the workforce and attend universities. In 1973, Khan abolished the Afghan monarchy and declared himself president under a new regime, the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan. People in rural areas that didn't agree with his social reforms and modernization of Afghanistan revolted in 1978, and Khan was killed in a communist coup. These people started the Mujahideen movement and thus eventually the Taliban in 1995. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in order to disrupt Afghanistan's progress in the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan. Many people like Amir and Baba were forced to flee Afghanistan, and those who couldn't endured through unbearable times of hardship. However, the worst was yet to come. When the Taliban rose to power in 1995, many people like Rahim Khan rejoiced. It was to be the end of oppression and hardship inflicted on them by the Soviets. A new government was going to be put in place for the better, and their progress that had been halted so many years ago was going to be back on track. The Taliban began on promises of peace, but were quick to change this by outlawing education for girls past the age of 8 and severely restricting women's rights in public presence by implementing laws such as not letting them speak without a male family member's presence. Under the Taliban, education was exclusively for boys and was restricted to only learning to read and write the language of the Quran. Mathematics, science, and history were excluded. Money was taken from the poor and given exclusively to the members of the Taliban. Mass murderings of the Hazaras took place, and their persecution worsened. Public stonings became a regular practice for those accused of adultery, as witnessed when Amir goes back to Afghanistan. When the United States started their war on terrorism because of the Osama bin Laden masterminded 9/11 attacks, Afghanistan became a priority due to their perceived participation in harboring and supporting terrorists. This led to the downfall of the Taliban. In December of 2001, Hamid Karzai became the new president under a UN-approved regime. In 2004, he is elected president, and soon after, Afghanistan holds its first parliamentary election in over 30 years. Afghanistan begins its slow path to recovery after multiple wars. Under the lens of the post-colonialism critical theory, you notice none of this would have happened if it wasn't for the Russian or Shawari invasion. It angered many people and led to multiple wars. Their progress was pushed backwards and opened up space for bitter people like the Taliban to come into power. A literary connection to the Kite Runner is a short story by James Hurst called The Scarlet Ibis. In The Scarlet Ibis, the narrator struggles to cope that his brother was born disabled. So every day he plans rigorous routines so that one day his brother will be able to walk and be the normal brother he had always wanted. His little brother, nicknamed Doodle, is under the impression that his older brother wants what is best for him, but in all reality, the older brother doesn't want to be embarrassed by having a brother born with disabilities. One day, a red tropical bird flies to the home of Doodle and his brother. This is a rare and beautiful sight, yet it should be impossible. The bird, a scarlet ibis, takes its last breath before dying right in front of their eyes. Doodle is very shaken by the loss of the bird's life and mourns the most. The older brother pushes Doodle to extremes, and one stormy day when Doodle is struggling to reach his brother's expectations for becoming the athletic, capable brother he never had, he is abandoned by the one person he trusts the most. Doodle is left to die in the midst of a terrible storm, and by the time his brother realizes what he has done, it is too late. When the brother finds Doodle, he thinks of the scarlet ibis that visited them earlier that day, and he sees a resemblance between the two. Not too different from the scarlet ibis, betrayal of trust becomes a major theme in The Kite Runner. Hassan is betrayed by the one person he thought he could trust the most to be there for him. Yet Amir, too focused on his own pursuit for Baba's affection, abandons Hassan, just like the brother did to Doodle. On page 77, Amir says, "In the end, I ran. I ran because I was a coward. I was afraid of Asaf and what he could do to me. I was afraid of getting hurt. That's what I told myself as I turned my back to the alley, to Hassan. That's what I made myself believe. I actually aspired to cowardice. Maybe Hassan was the price I had to pay, the lamb I had to slay to win Baba." While Amir betrayed Hassan's trust because of cowardice and the brother betrayed Doodle's trust because of greed, in the end they both betrayed and abandoned someone who trusted them when they needed it most. Another similarity between the two stories is that when Amir witnessed Hassan being assaulted by Asaf, he said that Hassan had the look on his face of a lamb. In particular, the lamb that is sacrificed on the first day of Eid Korban to celebrate how the Prophet Abraham almost sacrificed his own son for God. He says, "Hassan didn't even struggle, didn't even whimper. He moved his head slightly, and I caught a glimpse on his face, saw the resignation in it. It was a look I had seen before. It was the look of the lamb." The look of the lamb corresponds to Doodle's appearance when his brother finds him dead and says he looks like the scarlet ibis. Both these symbols represent weakness and the impact one receives from such a harsh betrayal. Another literary connection to the Kite Runner is Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. In each story, the main characters carry intangible things that are heavier than any tangible item could be. Amir carries regret that weighs down on him for 25 years. When remembering the day he betrayed Hassan as an adult, he realizes he had been peeking into the alley for the past 26 years. That deserted alley represented his regret, and he had bore his immense intangible weight of it for nearly 3 decades. In The Things They Carried, Lieutenant Jimmy Cross carries the load of responsibility of his young men. Just like Amir, his intangible weight is constantly in the back of his mind. An essential question that I felt was answered in The Kite Runner was, what does it mean to win? After reading Khaled Hosseini's book, I learned that winning can mean everything and nothing at all. Amir had won over his father's heart with that blue kite, something that meant the world to him. But at the same time, he lost everything and the only thing he ever had. He lost Hassan. In an act of desperation, Amir took all his chances just to lose the only friend he had ever had. He won Baba's heart over, but that only lasted temporarily. Instead, he lost Hassan and gained a lifetime of regret in turn. Winning feels great at the moment, the time all your hard work has paid off. But when you look back at a lifetime, you realize one's worth by their character, not their victories. This haunted Amir because he looked back at his youth as a time of guilt, not victories of winning over Baba's affection, and he feels he lost the time to redeem himself. In conclusion, many lessons can be learned from Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner. This book tells a unique story of one Afghan, but the lessons it teaches are very valuable. On Amir's quest for redemption, he learns the importance of standing up for what you believe is right before it is too late, the significance of maintaining friendships, letting go of the past, and the nature of forgiveness. Amir also learned that while doing the right thing may be frightening in the moment and the fear may last temporarily, memories are forever.